All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. This is I don't know what we want to call this, like the Leestown Future Freshman Panel with Dunbar, or what we want to call it. But I thought maybe just real quickly, if Ms. Krusich or Ms. Bates, if you want to talk about how this idea came about and what we hope to accomplish today, just so that the people who watch later on kind of know what they're getting into.
Okay, sure. My name is Ms. Bates, and I'm the college and career coach at Laurence Dunbar High School. Normally, what we've always done before in the past is at Leestown Middle School has always invited us to come and talk to our future freshmen that will be attending Dunbar in the fall. Dealing with the situation we have this year, we were unable to do that. So we thought we would do this virtually, and we would give you some different faces that you'll be meeting throughout your freshman year that will help you guide and hopefully ease your anxiousness about attending high school for the first time.
Awesome. And we have a bunch of people from Dunbar here. And then we also have some, I guess, former Chargers who are current Bulldogs. We've got 3 students with us here today. So we'll also get their input kind of as we go through and answer some of these questions. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to mention before we get into it. I think that's kind of the basics. So
I think I just want to make sure that, hi everyone, my name's Ms. Krusich. No relation to Mr. Krusich at all, just kidding. I just want to make sure that because we kind of have this set up in a question answer format, that people just remembered to introduce themselves, because we couldn't really think of a better way to organize it being on Zoom. So students, for those of you who are watching, we will introduce ourselves before we answer our questions, just so you know who we are. Okay, so feel free to take notes.
And students, the students that are on here, if you want to do that as well, just before you answer your first question, just tell us who you are and maybe what year you are, or what year you're heading into, so the 8th graders know who you are as well. All right, we're ready for the first question? Everybody ready to go?
Yep.
So the first question, and I guess before we go, the way we got these topics and questions is once we decided to do this, I created a survey with the 8th grade counselor and the 8th grade administrator at Leestown, and we sent that out to all the 8th graders and gave them a chance to let us know what topics they want to know about, what questions they have. And so that's where these questions came from, was directly from our 8th grade students. So the first question is usually the one that we hear the most from 8th graders. And I think Ms. Bates is going to answer this question. How do they find their way around that big old building?
All right. Again, my name is Ms. Bates, and I'm the college and career coach. The building, it does seem really big. Even when I first started working at Dunbar, it was like, okay, this is a huge building, and how do I navigate it? But it's really simple once you get a pattern down with it. It has 2 floors. The bottom floor goes from 100 to 400. That's the numbers of the classrooms. The top floor is 500 to 900. The cafeteria and the library is on the bottom floor. And the way I kind of got used to it was that I learned, like, the English classes are in the 100s. They're all under the topics of what the subject that you're going to be in. The 500s has a section to them that would be our science classes. The 600s are the social studies, and so on. And everyone at Dunbar, the staff, the teachers, we're willing to help you. We know that this is a new experience for you, a new building. You're trying to figure out where you're at. You'll also receive, when you get your schedule, you will have a map that will help you navigate as well. But we really want you to ask us. We're glad to help you. There are signs as well that will tell you which direction to go, the 100s, the 200s, and so on. So don't be afraid. It's not as intimidating as you think. The first week, you'll be getting a little bit, you may get lost a little bit, but we'll help you.
I thought this would be a good one for students to chime in on too. So maybe Jimena, Brittany, or Amy, we can start with Jimena.
Yes.
What was it like your first day? Like, did you get lost? Was it intimidating? How did you find your way around, or what advice would you have for 8th graders coming in?
Well, I'm Jimena Ariola. I am currently a sophomore at Dunbar and going into junior year, a former Charger also, so like it was important to do this. Finding my way around the building, it was kind of difficult considering that you're new freshman and, you know, going to a new thing, and it's pretty huge at first, but after a while you kind of get used to it, kind of remember the different pathways to go to different classes. The map really helps out a lot, and especially if you need help, there are teachers and counselors in the hallway to ask, especially police. Don't be don't be afraid to ask them too. They're nice and will help you with anything. Overall, it's pretty easy. Just pay attention to class numbers, and the first week is always hard, so no, don't be afraid to go to different classes.
All right, good advice. Brittany, did you want to add anything?
Well, for me, my first week going, I did have I do have a cousin who was a senior, and so she was kind of like my guide and my help throughout it. Like she walked me to my classes and helped me understand where my classes were located at. So she was a big help and played a big role.
So you had your own personal guide, it sounds like. That was kind of nice. Amy, you want to add anything?
Honestly, I just had to find people to help me around to look for my classes and all that stuff. Yeah.
So it sounds like don't be afraid to ask is what you all are saying.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Next question. This is a big one too. And I think Ms. Donovan is going to answer this one. What is the daily schedule like at Dunbar and how does it work? So kids really wanted to know about when does school start? When does it end? Class changes, that A-B day schedule, lunch and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's a great question. Our day at Dunbar begins at 8:25 in the morning and school is out at 3:15. We are on what's called a rotating block schedule, which means that you only have 4 classes a day. So the classes are each 90 minutes long, so they are longer classes. So you have 4 unique classes on A days and then 4 unique classes on B days. And then you can see our schedule right here. Are you all able to see my screen?
Not yet. I still see you.
Not yet. Okay. If you go to the Dunbar website and click students and then click rotation and schedule, you can see each class lined out time by time. But like I said, each block is 90 minutes long and all students have lunch during their 3rd block. Their lunch is based on the class subject that they are in. So for instance, this year, all social studies classes had first lunch. And so they all go to lunch at the same time and then they go to class. So your lunch is based on the class that you are in 3rd block. And that's something that you would learn once you have your schedule as to which lunch that you'll have. And I think that's about it.
Okay. Could you explain a little bit about the A-B day? Because at Leestown, we have an A-B day, but it's just one class. So they switch that one class A and B day. But so they may not really know what they're walking into with a true A-B day.
Right. So every other day is a different day. So for instance, if at the beginning of the week, the Monday is an A day, Tuesday will be B day, Wednesday will be A day, Thursday will be B day, Friday will be A day. And so A days are totally different classes than the 4 classes that you'll have on B day. So it's truly every other day you're in different classes.
Okay. So that's quite a bit different from what we had at Leestown. Any students, do you have anything you want to chime in about how that's different from what you experienced while you were at Leestown?
I would like to say something though. Usually when you hear 90 minutes in a class, it seems like super long and you feel like you won't be able to get through it. But usually after a while, when you get used to your classes, it passes by super quick, especially like if you have a specific A day or B day that you like it just goes by so fast that you just don't really realize it. At lunches, like you usually get used to it. It's a really big cafeteria compared to Leestown, so you can sit wherever you like. There's no assigned things. sit with your friends. Usually people who have different classes usually have the same lunch as you, so you might be able to have more friends there. So that's a bonus.
Okay. And you don't have to raise your hand if you want fork or ketchup or to go get some water, right?
No,
You
you
just
can
go
do that on
that
your own.
stuff. Yeah. You're a high schooler now.
Yeah.
All right.
Krusich,
Yes.
just wanted to add one thing. Hi guys, I'm Miss McDaniel. I'm also one of the school counselors, but I attended when I was in high school. I attended an AB day, like block schedule high school, and something else that you might be wanting to think about as you're preparing for getting ready for that first day of school. A lot of students I knew either had two backpacks, so they had like an A-day backpack and a B-day backpack, and they would just keep their materials separated in those backpacks, or they had like all of their binders for each of those classes, and they would switch out their work according to like if it's an A-day or a B-day. But then also, you know, maybe you have a study skills on your A-day where you're wanting to get some work ready for your B-day. So just kind of thinking in advance on how you want to organize yourself so that you can be, you know, getting work done on those different days, carrying work with you, whatever works best for you. And you'll kind of figure that out once you get there also. But I think a lot of students don't take advantage of their lockers maybe as they should. And it, you know, takes a toll on your back, but if you're going to keep some work in your locker, then that can be helpful. But otherwise, just kind of thinking about how you want to organize yourself.
Awesome. I think there's a question about lockers later that we'll answer too, so that'll kind of go along with what you said. All right, so the next question, and I think Ms. Smith is going to answer this one. It's about school supplies. So what kind of school supplies do kids need to bring? And then maybe talk a little bit about fees, if there's any required fees that then they or their parents need to be prepared to pay.
Hi, I'm Deanna Smith. I'm one of the counselors. It's so with fees, well, because I've kind of got onto that. With fees, you will have a instructional fee that you'll be paying really at freshman orientation. And then each individual class that you have, or some of the individual classes that you have, will have additional fees. For instance, art has an additional fee, and that's to be able to purchase all of the supplies that you would need for art. So you're not expected to go out and buy those things on your own. We will pretty much supply those. If you have a life skills class, they'll have all of the materials and all the food and everything that you will need for that. And that is paid for by the fee that you pay for that class. So far as what supplies you need, you really need to bring pencil, pens, and paper. Okay, and that's it. And then, like Ms. McDaniel said, any way that you're going to organize yourself. So if you are a person who does well with like one binder with everything in that one binder, and you have everything separated in there, you have sections, then do that. If that's not the best way for you to organize yourself, then find the best way to organize yourself. 2 backpacks for some people works great. For some people, 2 backpacks is just another one that you get to lose. So, you know, you have to figure that out, but you do not have specific supplies for the school that we're going to be having you bring. And I worked at a middle school, so I know how that works in middle school. You're not going to get like a great big long supply list. So paper, pencil, and a pen or 2, and you'll be set to go.
Students, any recommendations for organization that you would have for future freshmen as far as the way you do things?
I have a backpack where it just has like 2 big front pockets, and then I use one pocket for A-day and the other pocket for B-day. So that also helps too.
Okay.
Just put folders in there.
That's a good one. I hadn't heard that one before. That's a good one.
All right, we're ready to move on. Next question, and this is another one that we get a lot. It's about cell phones, because you know Leestown is pretty strict on cell phones, and they're not to be out of pockets. And if they come out and they're seen, they're taken away. So, what is the cell phone policy at Dunbar, if there is one? And this is for Miss Hill. I think you're still muted, Miss Hill.
You're right. I was on mute. I'm Nancy Hill. I'm one of the assistant principals. I work with the 9th grade in particular. For our cell phone policy, the big thing is when you can use it. You can use it before or after school. in the hallway, at lunch in the cafeteria. When you can't use it is really designated by the individual classroom teacher. And the way the policy is written is pretty much if it's out and the teacher doesn't want it to be out, they can write a referral for that. The easiest way for our kids to be able to visually see it is you should see a sign when you go in the classroom. It looks similar to this. It's
I think her signal's maybe lagging a little bit. Can anybody else hear? Or she's frozen on my screen. Okay.
She's frozen completely now.
To flip it, and sometimes they're really good about it. Personally, if I was a student or if I had a kid that was coming to this high school, my own personal kid, what I would tell you is if you have a cell phone, once you enter the building, put it in your backpack or put it in a secure place and try not to get it out at all while you're in class, because the teachers will sometimes flip the signs very quickly. You're in the middle of doing some work and you don't even know if you're supposed to use it or not. And then you look to somebody else sitting beside you, they've gotten it out, and you think, oh, I can use it. But really the sign is still on red, and now, you have that to deal with. So I would just keep it put up, and except for when you're in the hallways or before, after school, or in the cafeteria. I do want to add something that Ms. Donovan pointed out. Everything that we're talking about here, if it has to do with school rules, policies, with the cell phone, with our schedule, all that information is on our website. It's pretty user-friendly, I think, to find it pretty fast. It's a lot of reading, but it is all on there. And then also, if next year starts the same way as all the other years in past, Miss Raines, our head principal, sends out a welcome letter at the beginning of the year, and it does designate some of those important factors. And then we go over it. The first 2 days of school, we go over all the school rules, what can be some consequences, and then we also have videos that we show that will show, when you can use your cell phone, when you can't. Later on, I'm going to talk about going through the metal detectors, the same thing. So we try to really overly communicate all this information so that there aren't any questions later.
Awesome.
Sorry I talked so long.
No, that's fine. That's great. And so they'll definitely get this information one way or the other, it sounds like. All right, so the next question kind of usually comes right after the cell phone policy is dress code. So what is dress code at Dunbar? Is there a policy? And if so, what is it? And I think Ms. Huber was going to take this question.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Huber. I'm the behavior coach. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm using my cell phone today to try to take some risk and use technology differently. So sorry if there was some distraction earlier. The dress code policy is basically dress how you want to, what your future job would be, right? You don't want to wear anything that's offensive that can interfere with the learning environment. You don't want to wear something that can be just offensive to the students or the teachers, or that is a distraction. And per the student handbook, it specifically says wear pants at your hips, don't show cleavage, don't wear midsections. And as the behavior coach that mainly works with freshmen to kind of support you with your studies and being successful at school, my advice is nothing too short, nothing too low, and nothing too tight, and you should be great. The administration has the ultimate decision. If you wear something and you did not realize that it was offensive, and they can ask you to correct it, or if you do wear something that maybe is a little too low, we'll give you a chance to correct it, and that is you borrow clothes from a friend. You might have to wear scrubs if you don't have any other options, or you can ask your parents to come bring you a change of clothes.
So it sounds like the big ones that we deal with at Leestown that you students had to follow, the hoodie, no hoodies, no rips in the jeans, those aren't necessarily an issue in high school, it sounds like.
No, not at this time.
Okay.
Not at this time.
I'm sure that'll be good news for them. They'll be excited to hear that. All right, next question. I think Ms. Krusich is going to answer this one. Is about scheduling. So when can students, the freshmen coming in, expect to receive their schedule? And what do they do if they want to change something, if they get a class they don't like, or if they think there's an error? How do they go about contacting you all to change that, or talk to you about changing it?
Right. So I think I introduced myself at the beginning, but I'm Ms. Krusich, and I'm one of the counselors at Dunbar. And you will get your schedule on the first day of school in homeroom. We only really go to homeroom for the first couple of days, just like Ms. Hill was saying, to get the information out that is necessary to students. And there's a lot of information on the first day of school. So when you come to Dunbar on the first day, you'll go to homeroom and you will get your schedule, and it'll be on some pretty color paper. We don't know what color yet, but that is when you will find out when your classes are going to be on A days and B days. And if there is an error on your schedule, then you'll need to let your counselor know by coming up to the counseling office and getting a form. We don't really accept any other communication about the schedule other than a form, because there's so much going on the first day of school. So you just need to know that if there's an error, you need to come up to the counseling office, ask one of the secretaries for a schedule change request form, and we can get that to you, and then you'll fill it out and turn it back in. Also, if there is a class on your schedule that you decide that you don't like, but you signed up for it, I'm very sorry. We don't really change schedules just because there's something that you don't like. Now, if there's something going on about the class and you feel like you really need to talk to your counselor about it, or it's the wrong level, that kind of goes along with the errors, then you need to ask for a form in the counseling office and fill that out and get the signatures that are required to request that change. But if it's just a class that you don't really like and you signed up for it when you were in 8th grade and you get into the class and you're just not vibing with it, then I'm sorry, you just kind of have to stick it out, because we just have way too many things going on to be able to change. If we change one student's classes, then we have to change everybody else's. So we try to be fair. Did I answer all the questions?
I think so. That makes perfect sense. All right.
Steph, let me just interject there. If we have a freshman orientation, freshmen will always get a tentative schedule that night as well, so that they can, or that day as well, so that they can actually go tour their classrooms and try to find their way around the building. So.
Yeah, I didn't know if we wanted to throw that in there or not, but yeah, if we have one, that's where they get some information as well.
Okay, awesome. Next question we've kind of touched on a little bit, and I think Ms. Long is going to handle this one, but do students have to use lockers? So it sounds like they're assigned a locker, but do they have to use their locker if they don't want to?
Actually, no, they do not have to use their locker. I am Ms. Long. I should have said that first. Some students choose to use a locker. It is a $5 charge. Students do not bring their own lock. There's a lock already on the lockers. I actually have a daughter at Dunbar, and her and many of her friends choose to carry 2 backpacks, one for A day, one for B day. But most certainly students can also use lockers. It's just up to them. But yeah, for sure.
All right. Students that are on here, do you have any thoughts, any preference? Have you found it helpful to use locker or not? Any thoughts that you guys want to throw in?
Personally, me coming in as a freshman, I never used a locker, but that was before I joined the Dunbar girls soccer team, and we had to carry this big, huge bag. So it's like if you have a sport or if you have things that you have to carry more things to school, I would recommend a locker or a teacher that could take care of your bag and stay after school. But other than that, lockers aren't really necessary, but it is helpful during organization, stuff like that.
Okay. Brittany or Jimena or Amy, anything?
Well, I usually just carry like one backpack and just switch out my binders every other day. So I have a binder every day, switch them out every other day, and that's how I.
Okay. Thank you. And so one thing we get a lot from the sixth graders when they're coming, or the fifth graders are coming as sixth graders, they're afraid of being stuffed in a locker and never being found. Has that ever happened at Dunbar? Has a kid ever been stuffed in a locker and disappeared? No?
No, but that actually did happen to me at Franklin County High School when I was much smaller. But no, they are way too small for that to happen. So that's not.
Right.
They can take
They're
it
only
off their-
half size. They're only
Okay.
half size lockers, and
Perfect.
so
Miss Hill would get them too. She would get it if that happened.
It's like Melissa Long. Oh, Melissa Long.
All right. I think Melissa or Miss Long is going to answer the next one too. So we get this question a lot because they're, eighth graders coming into their freshman year are worried about being around all these older kids. So how do classes work? Will they have core classes scheduled with kids in other grade levels, or is it all freshmen together? How does that work?
Normally it is. The majority of the freshman core classes is freshmen, but sometimes we might have a senior or a junior or senior who has not passed a class and they would prefer to take it at Dunbar versus online. But the majority of them will be freshmen. Elective courses are a little bit different that could have potentially all grade levels.
Okay. All right, Ms. Birch, the next question is for you, and it's about AP classes. So how do AP classes work? And one specific question we got was, what is considered a good grade for an AP class versus a regular class? You're still muted.
I am Ms. Birch. I am one of the counselors at PLD, and I'm also the AP coordinator. So basically, AP classes are going to be harder than your standard high school classes. They're going to be about the same as an introductory level college course. So you're going to dig a little bit deeper into the subject. It's going to move at a faster pace, and it's going to be pretty rigorous and has quite a bit of homework with it. At the end of the class in May, you'll take an end of course AP exam, and you have the opportunity to earn some college credit. That's why we say it's comparable to an introductory college level course. So with that, if you are anticipating to earn college credit, you want to try to do the best that you can and try to get an A or a B. At the freshman level, we don't really have that many AP course offerings. The only class you can take as a freshman is AP Human Geography, but the options, there's more options that become available to you as you become a sophomore, junior, and senior.
Okay, great. Next question is about metal detectors. So those haven't come to Leestown yet. Kids don't really know what to expect or how those work. So Ms. Hill, could you explain a little bit about how that works in the morning as kids come into the building?
Yes, sir. So again, I'm Nancy Hill. I work with the freshmen as far as for the administrative staff. When you get here, you're going to see more, but overall, when you get up to the building, when you're getting ready to enter the building, make sure everything is in your backpack, including your cell phone. Make sure your cell phone in particular is in a very secure spot. You will need to open up your backpack, have all the zippers open, so that way the whole process will go smoother and quicker. And as you approach the metal detectors, there'll be several staff members there, the metal detector staff, plus we usually have our own Dunbar staff there, reminding you to do these things. Put everything in your bag, have your bag open and ready to go. You'll step up to the metal detector, you'll give the staff that's going to check through your bag or your bags. Like I heard somebody say that they played soccer, and so they know that we go through all of those bags too. and you'll put it up on a table. It'll slide forward. If you have anything in your pocket still, like keys or whatever, you'll also put that in your bag. And the metal detector staff will check for your bag. You'll walk through the metal detector. You'll grab your bag. You'll zip it up, and you'll move on about your business in class. But right now, the way we have it, I think, and you guys can correct me, is it something about like almost 15 metal detectors set up in 2 different locations? And last year we were able to get everybody through in order to start school on time majority of days. I think the days that we didn't start, it would be like a day like today where it's storming outside and things are moving a little bit slower, but we always start school on time regardless with the metal detectors. And if some of our staff have worked out there before, so anybody on here, if you want to add anything, you can.
That's a lot of kids to move through, so that's pretty impressive.
I did want to add one thing about the metal detectors, is they're issued a student ID, and they do need to have their student IDs.
Okay.
And the student IDs next year, I think they're going with a new company, so that they're going to look a little bit different. And for our incoming freshmen, likely, I don't know, but they may not have a freshman ID on that first day. So the first few days of school, IDs probably won't be used. There's still lots up in the air about that. We'll know more as we get closer.
Okay. And our 8th graders, I think last year was the first year with badges, so they're used to having them. They are excited, I think, that they get to choose their own lanyard, because at Leestown they have to have a Leestown lanyard, but I think in high school maybe they get to choose what they want it to hang on. Is that correct?
We gave them a lanyard at the beginning of the year, but if they switched it, we didn't say anything to them.
Okay. Brittany and Amy and Jimena, anything you guys want to add as far as that process for you, or any tips for kids as they have to work their way through metal detectors and they've never done it before? Nothing? All right.
Just about the lanyard, if you forget it, you just have to like pay $1 to like get a new one for the day to use.
Okay. Like a temporary badge?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. And if you come in and you don't have your lanyard and you don't have the money to pay for one, you do have to sit in safe until you can get that replacement. Typically, they get replaced pretty fast. Somebody has money from a friend or so forth. And then if you say, for example, you get if you don't have your ID, say you come in on a Tuesday, you don't have your ID, you pay $1 to get a replacement, you can come back on Wednesday with your replacement badge and get your $1 back.
Get a refund.
So it's more like you're borrowing it for $1.
Okay, good deal. That's similar to Leestown. They're used to, if they, after a certain number of times, they'd have to sit in safe if they didn't have their badge. So.
Right.
All right. Next question for Ms. McDaniel. So this is about freshman classes. So are freshman classes all throughout the building? Are they kind of in one area of the building? What can they expect about where their classrooms are located?
Yeah, so first, Miss McDaniel again, and I apologize about the lighting. The rain has changed what I thought was good lighting to now, and it's like dark and gloomy in here. But kind of backing on, adding to what some of the other counselors have said, you will, for your classes that are predominantly freshman classes, you'll have those with predominantly freshman peers. So for example, if you're in an English 1 class, you'll be in an English 1 class with predominantly freshmen. However, we don't have like a freshman academy. So you're not going to be in like one hallway where all of your classes are, and that's where all of the freshmen are. I think that Miss Bates kind of noted that our classes are separated more so by subject matter. So you can find a lot of our social studies classes together, a lot of our science classes together. Our electives are a little bit more spread out, but you'll be navigating the halls based upon those subjects more so than grade level. So you might be at this end of the hall because you have English, and then you need to go downstairs for, I don't know, math. I'm just making stuff up here right now for the sake of example. But no, your classes aren't going to be all grouped together in one hallway in terms of a freshman wing. You get to go along the hallways, which I think is good. It gives you that maturity and feels good.
You get to see more of the building, I guess. Get
Yeah.
used to where things are.
Now, I will say that, adding to that, you have 5 minutes to get to class. And I do love the way we do our bell schedule, because when you have a minute left, you'll hear some type of song playing. Sometimes it's my favorite jam and sometimes it's not, but you'll hear that music come on, and that's that morning. And so because our classes are spread out, students do need to be focused on getting to their next area, and responsible for managing their time well. But I have seen the students do it most of the year up until March, and most of them don't have a problem doing that.
Awesome. I missed a question, so I need to back up one for Ms. Hill, and this is a big one because normally there's orientations and opportunities for 8th graders coming into Dunbar to come see the building and get a tour and that kind of thing. So since that's probably not going to happen before next school year starts, is there going to be any kind of virtual orientation or any way that they can kind of see things?
I'm gonna be real honest with everybody. We have not even thought about it. We're trying to get to the end of the year. We met this morning. I had a Zoom meeting for something else that we're trying to add to everything else we're doing. We're literally, I think, trying to get to June 4th, which is supposed to be the last day we're giving out diplomas to our current seniors. And then that one will probably sit back, take a breath, and think about, okay, how are we going to get the beginning of the school year started? We've also, at this time, as of May 18th, we've not heard any whispers of the start of the school year, when that school year will start, what it'll look like. For me personally, I'm just going with, living in a fairy tale that it'll be like normal, although, you guys may be on that fairy tale with me, you may not, I don't know. I do think the virtual tour is interesting and it's something we can look at. I'm not sure how we'll get it done. Also, with not allowing our students do all of our technology, usually videotaping for us, and so with us not allowing them to come in the building right now either, it's going to be interesting to see how we can even get it done. So we'll figure something out.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff up in the air right now, so we totally understand. All right, next question is about grading. So I think Ms. Tackett was going to answer this one, and it's about standards-based grading. So what is that, and how is it different from what they're used to in middle school?
My name is Kendra Tackett. I'm also one of the counselors at Dunbar. And standards-based grading is a really good opportunity for students. It may be a lot different than something that you're used to, but it's definitely something you should take advantage of. Standards-based grading is set up to make sure that you show mastery of the content. So standards or content in each of your classes are broken down into different categories. And then as you have tests and quizzes and assessments over those standards, you have the opportunity to demonstrate your knowledge in the first try, or if you don't get it, you can remediate and improve your grade by taking that assessment again. So basically you have a few chances to demonstrate your knowledge. It's not all riding on a single test, and your content's broken down into smaller segments. One big misconception about standards-based grading is that you do not have to do homework. That is not true. If you do not do the homework, you will not be prepared for the assessments. So even though you may not get an actual grade on an assignment, your teacher is giving you that assignment to help you prepare for that assessment that's coming up. So think of it as a study guide. You're doing different assignments to help you prepare for an assessment that you're going to be able to demonstrate your knowledge for that class. And then your grades, instead of having traditional number grades, you're going to have letter grades, A, B, C, D, and F. And then those are associated to numbers as well. So an A is a 4, or it could be potentially a 5. 4 to 5 is an A. A B is a 3. A C is a 2. A D is a 1. And then anything below a 1 is considered a failing grade. So your numbers for your grades are going to look a lot different, but they'll always be associated with a letter grade that you are familiar with in each of your classes.
All right. Students that are on this call, has that been a big change for you all? Any thoughts about that? Is that something that was an adjustment for you coming into high school?
You know, considering like changing the grading and stuff, you always feel a little like different in different classes, but it doesn't take that long to get adjusted to it. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's way better and you can see where you went wrong and remediate. There is summative and formatives, so formatives don't really count, but in my opinion, formatives do count because they really do help with tests and stuff like that. And formatives count as remediation if you do fail or get a bad grade on a test. Summatives are a huge part of your grade, so that's pretty much it.
Okay. So it sounds like it's overall a positive adjustment coming into 9th grade. All right, Ms. Smith, this question is for you. How are counselors assigned to students? So, you know, at Leestown, they have their 6th grade counselor when they come in, and that's their counselor for 3 years. Is that how it works at Dunbar, or you know, what is your all system for that?
It's not by grade level, but always the hope is that you'll get to keep your counselor for all of the years that you're there. But they are split by the last name, by your last name. So, but we're adding a counselor into that mix for next year. So the letters for next year are going to change slightly. So I don't want to say what it is right now because I don't know.
Sure.
It'll get worked out between now and the first day of school. But but they are split mainly by the or only by the last names. Now the only exception to that is the MSTC students. All MSTC students have Miss Birch as their counselor. So
okay.
That's the only exception to that rule of last name. So.
And how many are on the counseling staff now? I can't keep track because it kind of changes sometimes.
I can't either. So there will be 6 full-time counselors next year and 1 part-time counselor.
Awesome.
And our part-time counselor won't have an assigned caseload necessarily, but she will be there to assist, and she can meet with students as well if somebody is not available. So
great. That was all the questions on our list, but I thought of one that I thought was kind of important. So I don't know who wants to answer this, but at Leestown we kind of have a process. If a student needs to see a support staff like me or one of the counselors, there's different ways they can do that. When they come into high school, if they want to talk to somebody, if something's going on they're upset about or whatever it is, how do they go about setting that up with their counselor? Is there a way on the website?
So we actually have an application, a process or a program that allows students to set up appointments online. So if it's not anything that's urgent, not any kind of an emergency, but they need to see their counselor, or if they need to see Miss Bates, the college and career coach, or if they need to see our part-time counselor or one of our district health mental health person, they can schedule that appointment, and it's through a program called See My Counselor. The instructions are on the website. There's a phone app that goes with that as well, so they can actually download that on their phone. If they put their cell phone number in there, then they will get notifications of their appointments, reminders on their phone, and so they can do it that way. They can always stop by the counseling office and set up an appointment, or they can email. You know, they could email us if they for some reason can't get See My Counselor to work. But for the most part, they need to, if it's not an emergency, they need to see my counselor. If it is an emergency, then of course all they need to do is come to the counseling office, and somebody will always be available to assist them. It may or may not be their assigned counselor, but somebody will always be there to assist them.
Okay, excellent. And then I thought, just before we wrap up, I wanted to give Jimena and Brittany and Amirani just a chance to, I'll put you on the spot a little bit, but maybe give the 8th graders coming in, like, what is your one piece of advice that you could give them that would help them the most, you know, their first day, their first week, or whatever it might be? Like, one thing that you learned that you really want to pass on to these freshmen coming in? Anybody have something they want to throw out there?
Personally, I mean, even though I have so much more to learn, because high school was a completely different experience from middle school, I'm telling you, like, it's completely different. It has positives and negatives, but I guess the one piece of advice is, I'm not saying that like everything's going to change, but the majority of like your social life and like the way you study and basically your future is all in high school, and it's going to change, and it depends on you as a person if you're going to like force yourself to be positive and think about your future and your grading. And as a freshman, like, it really doesn't dawn on you, but as a sophomore and coming into a junior, like, you tend to think about it more and more. And I personally seen like seniors and juniors like struggle and be stressed about grades and just like their social lives in general and like their behavior. And it's just like, you need to be prepared for that yourself, and seeing that in your friends or like other acquaintances that you might have, because it's not going to be the same, but you just need to be prepared for change in yourself and in others.
All right, that's good. I like that. That's good advice. Brittany, did you want to add anything to that? What's your biggest piece of advice for future freshmen?
Well, I'm a freshman, so like I still have a lot of things ahead of me, but I am thinking of it like right now, so I won't have to struggle like Jimena said. Like, I do see there are some juniors and seniors who struggle like finding out what they want to do in the future, and so I'm starting to think about that because I don't want to like start stressing out about it. So I want to start small. But what I could say is just to be yourself. Like, I don't know, you're just gonna go through so many changes. You're gonna finally realize that you're growing up. It's not middle school. You're not acting like a little kid anymore. They're not gonna treat you like a little kid. So you make your own decisions, make good ones.
That is good advice right there.
That is good.
Amy, what about you? Anything you want to add?
It's just you have to not hang with the wrong people, because honestly, your friends won't be your friends in high school anymore. Some will, some won't. People do change, and you won't always have classes with your friends like you do in middle school. And so I'm just a freshman too, so, but going into high school, it taught me a lot for the first year.
That's really important. We tell our 8th graders all the time that high school, all this drama, it's a chance for a fresh start, and there'll be different students you can be around, and all this social media stuff. And, they're in these classrooms together for 3 years, all in the same hallway. And so it's a lot different in high school, new opportunities. So.
Also, speaking of opportunities, don't be afraid. Oh my God, I remember freshman year, like, I was just so afraid to do so many things and talk to like Miss Krusich and like ask for help. And I was even scared to join like the sport I even play now. And it's just like, it kind of dawns on you where it's just like, I could do so many things here. Dunbar provides you with so many groups. Like, I saw there was a card group that they created this year. Like, there's so many things that they create, and there's just so many opportunities that you could take and show like your true self in a way. Dunbar isn't afraid of doing that, and you shouldn't either. Like, it's just the thing that it happens and you change, and it takes a while. It really dawns on you, but just don't be afraid. Changes happen, and overall, it will be a great experience.
Awesome. So don't be afraid to take some risks, right?
Right.
Right. What about anybody else before we stop recording? Any of the guidance staff or Ms. Hill or anybody want anything that we didn't cover that you want to add to or throw out there for these kids that are coming to you next year? We cover everything?
Well, I just want to encourage students to reach out to their counselor, and don't get frustrated if you do reach out to your counselor and we don't respond right away. I think, just because the environment is so much larger, sometimes I was a middle school counselor before I was a high school counselor, and coming from the middle school, you're kind of used to having someone respond to you immediately. And so I want our students to know that we care about them, to see my counselor, to get in touch with us if they need to, follow up with an email if you haven't heard anything. All the staff at Dunbar, we're here to help you. Please, like Jimena said, don't be afraid to ask any question. We're here, to support you however you need. So.
All right.
There's one thing I'd like to add. I think one of the things students don't take advantage of, and I hope they are throughout this, is our Dunbar webpage has a lot of information that sometimes that maybe if you're not able or you're afraid to ask somebody a question, there's so much information on the webpage that it can at least get you started on knowing, like, maybe there are some opportunities you want or there's some additional questions. As the college and career coach, one of my things is that I really want students to know that there are resources there at Dunbar. I'm there. If you can't get in with your counselor, if it's a college and career question, then you have come see me. You don't always have to see my counselor. I'm a little bit more available than sometimes than what the guidance counselors are. Not saying that I take their place at all. I'm just saying sometimes I can at least get contact with you so that you're not feeling like it's being left out, that you're being left out, because it is a lot of students that are in the school. There's a lot of resources of people throughout the building as well. We are there for you. That's why we have our jobs that we do. We picked this career because we want to be there with you all and that we love working with you. So just know that we're all there and that we care about you.
Thank you. Anybody else before we wrap up?
I'd like to say something now since I'm with the program. I got my technology set up. So like I said, I'm the behavior coach and I work mainly with freshmen. Miss Hill and I consider us partners, and I think she considers me her partner too. But you all will be great. The one thing that you can do is show up, whether it's online, whether it's in person, when you are in class, be present. If you do that and meet expectations, you will be successful. I guarantee you. Just show up. If you didn't do your homework, just show up to class, right? Just be there and be present, and you will do great.
It's good advice. Jimena, do you remember what Mr. BK always used to say? When you're here, you can learn. So we say that all the time.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. Usually on the
Yeah,
announcements,
all I remember is once a Charger, always a Charger. So
that too. Well, thank you guys all for your time. This will be so helpful for our future freshmen. And we hate that we couldn't have you come to Leestown this year like we usually do, but hopefully next year will be normal and we can get back on track with that. But thank you to the students that are on here, Jimena and Brittany and Amrani, for taking time to join us and for giving us your advice as well, because that's also helpful for them to hear it from students that have been through it. So we appreciate everybody's time and everybody's help, and we're sending you a good group of kids next year, so we hope you enjoy them as much as we have.
We're excited.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Seth.
Bye, ladies.